if you are managing tasks and you are looking at how to do that within the Office 365 environment, I'm going to give you some real world experience here on using all of the platforms that Microsoft offers and give you some comparisons and show you some examples. We're going to walk through some of the comparisons between these platforms and then summarize at the end and talk about cost. And we're going to focus really on Planner Premium, and Project. And those are the three platforms. We're not going to talk about To Do, but I will kind of mention that in the discussion as well. So stay tuned. This should be a great discussion and give you some tools, qualifying tools, to make this decision on your own. So stay tuned. All right. So really the key question here is right here, and you can see it there under qualifying question. If you're going to have a dedicated project manager, somebody who's actually managing your projects for you, you're going to want to go with Project Lite, which they call Planner Premium, or with Microsoft Project as well. These are both solid options because they allow for you to do many features that a project manager will want to do. But you're going to see here as I discuss these options, you have to be careful that some of the options don't cost more time to use the tool to track the task than if you had just done the task to begin with. So there's a fine line, a tipping point between making a decision and doing the task versus tracking the task and keeping it organized. So it's important. We're going to talk about some of those differences. So let's look at some of the platforms real quick. So we're all talking about the same thing here. And I have to kind of go around to the different ones that we have here. So let's go ahead and click here. This is Planner itself. Now, Planner is a web-based tool. This is a huge difference between Planner and Project. Project you can load actually as an application on your desktop. Although, quite frankly, who's really doing that in today's world? But you might need to. Maybe you're in a disconnected environment. You can do that. But this is Planner. It's web-based, and you can see you can have multiple plans within the environment. Of course, this is all test data, and some of the data I've used over the years to use Planner. But I don't use it anymore, and we're going to talk about why I've kind of moved away from Planner. But I love Planner, by the way. Great product. Okay, so Planner, that's the first thing. This is not Planner Premium. This is Planner. Although I don't have a screenshot of Planner Premium or Project. I don't own the licenses myself. But Planner Premium looks almost exactly like Planner. It has a few more features, which we're going to talk about, but it's really Planner. With just a couple features added, and you have to pay extra for it. Planner itself is included in most of the Office 365 subscriptions, so something to remember. All right, you can also get Planner on within Teams, so you can link it just by clicking on here to add a tab, and you can see I can manage those tasks. I can do all kinds of things to those tasks, right? And I can view it in different boards and things like that. And a lot of people that I speak with, they're using Planner inside of Teams, right? They call it Teams, but it's really Planner inside of Teams, managing your tasks. All right? And then the third way that you can do it that I'm going to talk about is using SharePoint. Now, this happens to be a Power App, and as you can see, highly customizable, right? You can do whatever you want. Notice here that it has hourly rates, priority scores, it has minutes, costs, it does all of the calculations for you automatically. It gives you percentage of complete, what the score is, and here it actually gives a timer that's actually calculating how many down to the millisecond you're working on this task. So the intent is when you're working on a task, you can go ahead and bill for that as well. So this is highly customizable, and it is used within PowerApps. So what you're looking at here is a Power App. Now, if you decide to go this route, this is a customizable product. And you can literally add, here's like attachments, I want to add a task while I'm working on another task. I want to send an email related to this, and it automatically plugs in information. Highly, highly automated. So you can do all of this. Now, this is kind of one of those, and then this, of course, is the timer where you pause it or start it, automatically starts. So this is a kind of set up and forget type of engagement, right? You would want somebody to create customized, here's a screen that you can use. You can do Gantt charts. You can do all kinds of things within this environment. So this is a customized type of perspective that you want, and very doable, by the way. So if this is something you want, then that's what you need to do. Okay, so let's go back to talking about, and so when setting up this type of environment, once you get it set up, it pretty much runs by itself, but you would have to either do it yourself or pay somebody to build this for you. All right, so qualifying question. We already talked about that right there. If you want a project management, great. Licensing. So you have to order licensing, and this is a message to a company, but you have to order the premium license or the project licenses, okay? And then they get assigned to the individuals. So there are some additional costs. So here you can see some of the experience, and you can read this as I'm talking, but my experience with Planner, we ran literally thousands of open tasks a day inside of Planner with multiple hundreds of external parties within the organization, within the Air Force. And what happened after, and it was great. And in fact, we broke it a couple times where we actually talked to the head PMO for Microsoft Planner. So great tool, very scalable, works well, but very limited in scope, right? And let me just give you some of those examples where some of these limits might be problematic for you. So here, for example, inside a Planner, you can extract information in Power Automate. And so ultimately, what happens is when you're managing large projects from a manager perspective, you're going to want to know what tasks are active, what are being done, what aren't being done, and you want all of that stat. And you don't want to have to come in every day and say, okay, let me see here. What tasks are late? Okay, great. You can do all of this, but really what you want from a manager perspective is you want to be able to look at, for example, a Gantt chart like we have here and say, all right, there we go. Why are we late on these, and these, right? And the dates, right? This is a very simple thing to look at. That does not happen inside a Planner. So if you want to get to that, you can have these, and it does give you some of the completed, not completed, late, things of that nature, and you can kind of drill into those a little bit. So, but it's not a report. You got to go in, touch, feel, be inside a Planner to make this happen for you. So just something to be aware of from a reporting perspective. And that's difficult to do. Now, for some of you, who cares, right? It may not make a difference. So anyways, let's go back to the chart. All right. So that's just what we found. Let's just go ahead and go into these. I put 6 main items that I think are kind of the decision points related to Planner versus Premium versus Project versus lists. Okay. So we talked about this flexibility. If you're going to be using things like Power Automate, Power BI, PowerApps to either simplify input of tasks, automate a lot of the operational things that need to happen when managing a large group of tasks, then SharePoint is the absolute way to go. It's going to give you the most flexibility. Now, I'm using SharePoint lists in this example, but it could be the Dataverse, could be any data platform that the Power Suite can access. The second bullet here is Planner, Premium Planner, and Project. Like I said, they can be limiting. So if you want to send task lists via email, for example, on a scheduled basis, or you want that flexibility, by all means choose to create a Power App using some sort of data backend like SharePoint lists or the Dataverse. Number 2, status reporting, Gantt charts, visualization. We kind of already went through this in this example here within this Power App. SharePoint, hands down, will allow you to do all of that. So project planner, you have to export this data. Some basic reporting is available, but you are restricted on your export. So for example, let's look at this task here. Now, you would look at this task, and although there aren't any comments, there's one, you would ask yourself, well, hey, I like the way that Planner keeps everything in one area. This is wonderful. I can add attachments, checklists. Now, can I get that in a report, for example, so that I can see what's going on with a specific task, for example? The answer to that question is kinda. You can get your notes section, but you cannot get really the meat of a collaborative task environment is found within comments, and extracting that data is virtually impossible. Additionally, you don't have like a follow-up day. So you may have a start day and a due date, but when is the next action day, or what I call a follow-up date? You don't have that. Within a customized task environment here, you can add that, right? So you see here, task follow-up date, and then what date am I actually working? So the start date's the beginning and end of the project, but I need to know these two dates as well in between. Now you cannot get that in Planner, but you can kinda put some custom fields in Planner and Project, but it's cumbersome, and at that point you might as well just be creating your own application in SharePoint. All right. Number 3, out of the box. The out of the box task management experience without paying anybody to do anything, Planner, hands down, is the experience. This is a very user-friendly environment. You can easily create tasks, create columns. The only question will be, how do you do that so when you get a lot of tasks and you're collaborating with others, that it becomes organized and that you can find information? Do you use labels, for example, so that you can sort by label? How do you make sure that those labels are assigned properly when you have 500 tasks in this plan, or 500 tasks over 12 plans? So how do you do that, right? Those questions begin to come up and create a real challenge for anybody trying to manage tasks at an enterprise level. So Planner does a great job in managing tasks. So does the Microsoft To Do. It does a similar function. The nice thing about Planner is if you have a small team and you're doing collaboration, this may be a great first step, but you may find that you'll outgrow it as your team and expectations increase. All right. But by all means, Planner, and Planner Premium are easy to get started. Project has a learning curve on it if you're going to truly utilize Project for what you're paying for that license per month. So I would say Planner and Planner Premium, which is Project Lite, very similar in the user experience. SharePoint, remember, not the best out-of-box experience, right? Because you're going to have to create this custom application. All right. If you're trying to manage sprints, for example, if you're a software development shop, or team workloads, for example, managing workloads. Now, it doesn't do it based on time utilization here, so you don't have historical. So you want to make sure, like, for example, if I have similar tasks in SharePoint or in PowerApps, in a data structure, I can say, oh, okay, I can tag these, for example, see, oh, on average, it takes me X amount of time to do this type of work. That's going to be hard to do in Project or Planner, but certainly if you're going to do that, you're going to need to use a product, either Project or Planner Premium. It's not advised that you do that in Planner itself. Okay, so you could, of course, use the SharePoint Power App, SharePoint/PowerApps. All right, dependent tasks. If you're going to have interdependent tasks, you need Project and Planner Premium are smoother user experience. They will help you. They'll allow you to create dependent tasks. Within SharePoint, you can do that by creating a task ID here, and then dependent tasks would be, for example, .1, and so that you can take advantage of the search engine and say, hey, give me all the tasks with this ID, and then dependent tasks and associated tasks will show up as .1, .2, .3, etc. Okay, so you can do that within SharePoint, and the same concept applies within Planner itself. Here I could have replay 2, and I could create another task. I could just call it, replay 2.1. Okay, and then when I do a search for a replay, now I don't know how it's going to deal with the case sensitivity, but here if I just search for replay, okay, so it did it fine. So not case sensitive. Notice here I'm just going to search for replay, and I just have these two tasks show up. So I can see 2.1 and 2, and then I can just make a reference in here, for example, at the top, dependency .1 or whatever, right? And then save it. So now, or I can put in here dependency like that. Okay, so actually that one's not dependency, so you get the idea. All right, so you can kind of get around it in Planner as well, and then I can filter here on my dependent tasks by just going to my label and saying I want all my dependent tasks. Okay, so you can work around it. It's pretty easy. You can do that. Collaboration, by far, hands down, if you're going to be collaborating on tasks with attachments and comments, Planner and Planner Premium are excellent choices. I think this is one of the greatest features that Planner has, is that people within the organization, and you'll see it right here under Plan Settings, Notifications, send email to the group when a task is assigned or completed. So what happens is if you set these all to go, which you can see I do by default, what will happen is that anytime a change occurs to this task, for example, this task, somebody types in a comment here and hits send, this comment's going to automatically be emailed to me and come into my inbox. Now, for some people, they say, well, that's a hassle, but it's not a hassle because from a leader perspective, now I can see that, there's life to this task, right? It's working, and I can comment. If somebody puts a comment in there, and I could comment, hey, great comment, or hey, did you think of this perspective? Or maybe somebody else on the team that is in that same plan, they can respond back, hey, I did that 3 years ago, and here's how we addressed it. So it really creates this huge collaborative environment, and you can respond if you do reply to all in email. It'll actually capture your email thread inside of here as well. So extremely powerful if you want to do that level. Planner is wonderful. Now, Planner Premium, not sure it's worth the squeeze, be honest with you, when it comes to collaborative, because they both do the same thing. Planner Premium, we'll talk about some of those right here, actually. So SharePoint lists, here's kind of a summary for you. Task tracking, right? We talked about that. Lots of customization, no additional costs, except, of course, that you have to create the application, right? Planner here, where are right here? It integrates seamlessly. It does indeed, and it's included in all the plan, no additional costs, and it's really a beautifully designed collaborative platform. It really, really does well. Project, the only things that you're really picking up really are Agile right here and some task history, honestly, and dependencies between tasks. Dependencies, we talked about, you can do that easily with anybody, just get a little creative. And quite frankly, these things are really meant for a project manager. Most people don't use them even if they have the features. And then, of course, project is the mother load, right? It's really right here. Multiple resource constraints, budget considerations. It has built-in Gantt, although as you can see, you can build Gantt into into SharePoint. You can also use Planner. There are integration points between Planner and Power BI, and you could potentially take Planner information and dump it into a list, and then from the list or a Dataverse data structure, then you could generate different reports and GANs and things like that. It's a few more steps, but you can get there. So anyways, and then you can see there at the bottom what kind of a summary is on all of those feature sets. So hopefully this has been informative for you to kind of help walk you through what the options are for you and kind of what you can do with those options.